Hey there. So happy holidays. This time of year I know can be really frustrating if you're on the job hunt because there's just not that much going on. And I got this email, as I sometimes do, from someone who's frustrated with the job search. I wanted to share it with you and share my answers with you because I think he asked a lot of common questions, things that I hear all the time, and things that are worth addressing. So let's do that. I've redacted some of the stuff in the email just so that it's anonymized, but you'll get the drift. Hi, Nancy. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year's. I'm emailing you because I am frustrated. I'm a career switcher. I'm also a progressive environmentalist, and I'm distraught with many socioeconomic environmental issues that are prevalent in America today. Over the past 6 years, I've been working on segueing into a career in politics. I've taken political action training, volunteered a ton of time on campaigns and referendums, and joined 2 board of director roles, and have also had 1 paid position on a Senate race in 2020. In anticipation of the critically important 2022 midterm elections, I have made myself available to work on any campaign anywhere in the country. I feel very qualified for entry-level positions such as organizers, trackers, researchers, and even comms director roles. I have over a decade of industry experience working in jobs that are affected by policies created by governments, and think my boots on the ground experience would be of value to a campaign. However, I am not getting anywhere in my job search, and it's taking a toll on my patience, and it's already been a crappy couple of years, so there's already too many existential issues that require mental stamina. I've applied for many organizer roles with campaigns such as Beto and Stacey Abrams, but hear nothing. I've applied for nonprofit roles, but hear nothing. I've applied for organizer training programs as entry level as it gets, but I've heard nothing. I have had an interview with DSCC open interviews, and even though they said they liked my unique background, I've heard nothing. I get generic rejection letters without even an interview. Some people who sent me rejections responded to my inquiry about how many applicants they're receiving, and I'm hearing numbers from 10 to 50 people for 1 position. So if you're still reading this long-winded email, here are my questions for you. Number 1, what is the status of campaigns right now? Are there way more applicants than jobs? The campaigns have no problem calling me for money, but are silent on job openings. Number 2, I don't have a PoliSci degree. I am worried that my lack of formal political training is getting me immediately denied for an interview. Do you agree? Number 3, are campaigns and nonprofits posting job applications, but in actuality hiring internally? I've applied to a very unique job with an organization that I was very qualified for and never heard from them. The job remained open for 7+ months. I couldn't get a response by phone, email, or DM from them on the status of the job listing. It's hard to spend so much energy trying to get hired for a campaign when I would rather spend that energy fighting Mitch McConnell and his conservative minions. But if I'm swimming in a sea of applicants fighting for jobs that might not even exist or be available to me, then I'll have to rethink if I even want to keep pursuing this career, and I think that would be a shame. Any help or advice is greatly appreciated. Let's just say, Joe. Okay, so there is a lot to unpack in that email, and I want to start here. The job search is so incredibly frustrating and demoralizing. We've all been there. I have certainly been there. You know, that's the cycle, right? You're unemployed after every election cycle almost, and it can be really draining, the constant following up with people, the networking. I hate it. And I remember asking a friend who worked at an organization that I really wanted to be a part of, like, I've applied here so many times, I think I'm so qualified, I know so many people here, like, is there something about my resume? And her response was, no, but you're not saying that to people, are you? And I wasn't, and I'm assuming, Joe, that you aren't either, but I do want to say, like, please reach out to me with this kind of stuff. Happy to, but I think I'd just be remiss if I didn't say, like, obviously that's not the attitude that you're going into interviews with. Also, when you said people are saying they're getting 10 to 50 applications for every job, honestly, that seems low to me. In the process of hiring for an entry-level position at my job, and I'm positive we've gotten more than 50 applications for it. Even though you see on the news, like, nobody's working, yada, 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 those aren't really for these kind of jobs. These are really competitive jobs. So that's something else to keep in mind. Joe also included his resume with his email, and I looked at the Senate campaign that he worked for, and it was for an independent. And so, Joe, I'm wondering if that might be part of what's giving you a problem here. Not that there's anything wrong with working for an independent candidate necessarily. Sometimes there are good reasons to do so, But I do think that Democratic operatives are going to be suspicious as to why you were working for someone who is not a member of the party, especially if that person was running in a competitive race with a Democrat and a Republican and possibly taking votes away from the Democrats. So that doesn't mean that you can't get a job by any means, but it might be a stumbling block and might be something that's worth addressing in your cover letters or in your interview conversations. So those were just a couple of things I noticed. The other thing I want to speak to is I think career switching is hard, but even, trying to go from campaigns to nonprofits or trying to find my way in DC, like it is hard to make that change. And I do think that sometimes we can be a little bit suspicious of people who are career switchers because not that the job of an organizer looks glamorous, but it is a totally relatable and understandable notion to see what's going on in the world and think, I want to help, I want to leave my job, I want to do this work, and switch from a job that is potentially better paying than being an organizer, that is fewer hours, better benefits, and not know what you're getting into and just want to be part of this work. I am not saying, Joe, that that is what you are doing here in this email, but I do think that there might be some trepidation on the part of some hiring managers about the career switch. And again, I think you're totally right. That can be an asset, especially because you have volunteered on campaigns and you've worked on a campaign and you are trying to do the training program. So you're showing you're serious about it and you have an idea of what it is, but you might want to be proactive about sharing that information. So let's talk through Joe's specific questions. Number one, what is the status of campaigns right now? Are there way more applicants than jobs? The campaigns have no problem calling me for money, but are silent on job openings. Yeah, no kidding. That happens to all of us. Yeah, I think right now when I'm filming this, it's over the holidays. It's the tail end of December. Now is going to be a slow time for jobs at both nonprofits and campaigns. First of all, nonprofits are just figuring out their end of year funding situations in a lot of ways. If a campaign is active, it's end of quarter for them right now, so that's a big deal. And many places, especially nonprofits more than campaigns, are taking a holiday break. And so I think stuff is slow. It'll start to pick up again in the new year. And then for jobs like organizers, generally those don't start picking up until I would say March at the earliest, and sometimes really ramping up in the summer. So assuming that it's a competitive general election, not a competitive primary, but for a competitive general election, I would say it might just be that entry-level jobs are getting hired later, particularly organizer jobs. I do want to point out that under entry-level jobs here, you listed comms director, which I don't actually think is an entry-level job. So not sure if that's something you're applying to or being frustrated with, but I think most comms directors are people who have either communications experience under their belt or a bunch of campaign experience under their belts, or both. But yeah, it is a hard time. This December to January window is always tough. A lot of people got off campaigns in November, took a couple weeks, had Thanksgiving. Now they're just applying. People are slow to get back. It is just sort of a tough time of year in the cycle to get these kind of jobs. Number two, I don't have a PoliSci degree. I'm worried that my lack of formal political training is getting me immediately denied an interview. Do you agree? No, I do not. First of all, I don't think a PoliSci degree is formal political training at all. In fact, there is a little bit of a joke that you may have seen on my Tumblr or my blog when people think they're qualified for jobs on campaigns or they should automatically get a job on a campaign because they have a PoliSci degree. Not at all. Plenty of people do, and that's great. Plenty of people don't. I myself was an international relations and Russian literature major. It really doesn't matter at all. Anyone who thinks that having a PoliSci degree makes you more or less qualified to work on a campaign doesn't know what they're talking about. And I'm fairly confident in saying that 95% of the hiring managers on campaigns I know would agree with me on that. Number three, are campaigns and nonprofits posting job applications but then hiring internally? Maybe. I would say internal hiring is less of a thing in campaigns in terms of like hiring from within the campaign, just because generally like you only have people on staff who are meant to be there for a short amount of time. There's not a ton of mobility within the organization, but it could be that people are hiring their friends, networking to jobs, Giving jobs to people who are recommended by members of the party, absolutely. Same thing in nonprofits, could be an internal hire. That happens a ton. But I think that most places, most large campaigns, like you mentioned Stacey Abrams and Beto, as those ramp up, like they're not going to be able to just hire their friends because they're going to need so many people. So even if you're not getting a call back right away, I would absolutely, reach out to coordinated directors in the states you want to work on, reach out to EDs of state parties. You already said you reached out to the DS, reach out to all the committees, let people know that you're interested, and then follow up, not a jillion times, but maybe, once a month. Hey, just checking in, not sure if you're hiring yet, but wanted to let you know I'm really interested, yada, yada, yada. I would also say, and I don't know if you're doing this, I see that you're mentioning bigger campaigns on here, like statewide. You may want to think about trying to do a local campaign where you live, even if it's a shorter period of time, less money. It's a great way to get experience and get your foot in the door. Local or smaller campaigns also give you access to more pieces of the campaign. If you're a field organizer on even a state senate campaign, which is not always a small campaign in many places, but a state senate or a state house campaign, then you were likely sometimes maybe staffing the candidate. You're maybe helping with social media. You're doing a lot of things that a field organizer on a large campaign isn't getting to do. So if you haven't been looking for smaller campaigns as well, I would keep my eye out for those. And I would absolutely proactively reach out to any states, state parties, committees that you're interested in working with, and let them know you're excited, available, and willing to move, which is a huge asset. So then there's a sort of second part to this question. I applied for a very unique job that I'm very qualified for and never heard back. The job remained posted for 7 months. I couldn't get a response by phone, email, or a DM from them about the status of the listing. So I think a couple things could be going on here. First of all, sometimes people are bad at writing their own job descriptions, right? Like organizations will say they're looking for X and you think, oh, I'm perfect for it. And then you'll see the person who gets hired and you're like, oh, that's not the same skill set that I thought they were describing. So it may be that you're perfect for the job that they're describing, but what they want is not actually the candidate that they're describing in their job description. If it's a nonprofit, it could also be a funding issue. It could be they know they're going to want to hire for this, but they're waiting for a donation to come in. And finally, it could just be that they had someone in mind. You're totally right. That happens. It's a numbers game, and you can't let one job get you discouraged. I hope those answers were helpful. I know that this can be a real slog, and it can be really frustrating and demoralizing, especially around this time of the year. It's just going to be slow going. So my advice would be cast a wide net, look critically at your resume and think, what might people have questions about, and how can I proactively address those in an interview and a cover letter? And also work your connections. For better or for worse, this is still a very connection-driven industry. So you volunteered on campaigns. The people who you volunteered for are probably working in campaigns or the nonprofit space or know people who are. Reach out to them and ask them to connect you to people for informational interviews, and ask those people if they know anyone who is hiring. I promise you, if you are qualified, you're interviewing well, you're doing all the right things, there are field organizer jobs coming down the pike. So hang in there. Happy holidays. If you like this video, if you have questions about your own job search, questions about working on campaigns, any of that, please put them in the comments below. Please like and subscribe. You don't know until you have a YouTube channel how important that is. Happy New Year, and I will see you in the next one.